go. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. I gotta be honest with you. That game drove me nuts. I cannot believe the Buccaneers lost that game. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Tough one. Man, that was an absolute laser from Cooch, wasn't it? What a crazy game. The Bulls are bowl-bound for the third season in a row. An incredible performance. And listen, we know the competition. They did what they had to do. No more silver linings. No more moral victories. It was put up or shut up time. And boy, did they rise to the occasion. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast, live here from Benchmark International Arena. And new intro on the program. Appreciate everybody for being here. A little hoarse today, man. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, getting closer and closer to 100%, but it feels back to normal. Being here on the podcast with you, and of course, being here at Benchmark International Arena before the Lightning's matchup with the Colorado Avalanche tonight. And I got to tell you, you just watch these Avs out there. I mean, it's no surprise that they've only lost 3 games in regulation all season long. Jared Bednar has these guys just absolutely rolling. Nathan McKinnon, Kale McCarr, more on them in a little bit, but a very big matchup tonight and a test. It's a litmus test, and a measuring stick for the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. Very, very good game. Hopefully you'll be here at the arena. They got a bunch of blue t-shirts, Goal Getter, Advent Health blue t-shirt. So if you're in the building tonight, you're going to get some free swag, and who doesn't love free stuff? Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe as well. This is it's a new day here. I'm a lot happier than I was yesterday. There was a lot to get into when we had our Tampa Bay Buccaneers post-mortem today. So I feel a lot more refreshed today, but there's still a lot to unpack when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We heard from Todd Bowles yesterday and just some of the things that he was saying. And we're going to talk to our guy, Greg Auman, at 12:20. It's tough to kind of digest some of those sentiments. And I've been in those press conferences, and Greg has too, and not just for the Buccaneers, but man, when you hear some of these answers, it just doesn't give you that, like, there's no warm and fuzzy type feeling. There's no, wow, this is going to work out. Even the most optimistic Buccaneer fan, you cannot really be jumping for joy if things are going to be the same going into the 2026 season. So we'll discuss all things Buccaneers with Greg at 12:20 today. Also, we heard the news today that Byrum Brown is officially leaving USF. He's joining Alex Golesh at Auburn. We'll talk about that a little bit later on today at about 1:15. Tonight is Gage Goncalves' 100th game for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I spoke to him at length after morning skate today about his 100th game, kind of his up and downs this year, and also playing with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. It is, some people say, oh, it's easy to play with great players. It is not. You have to raise your level, and especially a guy like this. It's so easy to be like, well, you should just be able to go do what you want. Well, if you play in the third line, that's one responsibility. If you play in the first line, it's a completely different skill set that you have to utilize if you're going to be successful in the National Hockey League. So a really good chat with him. We'll hear from him, and also some of the kind of, I don't want to say off the record, but some of the stuff I didn't capture on video as well. And the big discussion, and I heard this yesterday on WDAE with Tom Krasnicki on the drive in the afternoon. People bringing up the fact that the Glazer family is not going to make any decisions with Todd Bowles because they're concerned with what's going on with Manchester United. And I'm going to tell you at 12:50 today, after we talk to Greg Auman, why that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on with Todd Bowles and his future with the Buccaneers. I tweeted it out late last night. It was something I couldn't get off my brain, and then it was even confirmed earlier today when I was doing some more research about what happened with Ruben Amorim over there in Manchester United, getting sacked yesterday after just a rough go, and the battle between he and the hierarchy there and the people that aren't mentioned in that battle are the Glazer family. So we're going to discuss that after we chat with Greg here in a bit. But I want to start with Jon Cooper. It's kind of crazy that no matter what happens, Jon Cooper does not get his due. You remember back in 2019 when the Tampa Bay Lightning set their records and they played as flawless as any team has in the regular season. He still didn't win the Jack Adams Trophy that year for best coach in the National Hockey League. He has yet to win that award during his entire tenure with the Bolts. You're talking about a guy that is the longest tenured coach in the league, and he has never won the award for best coach. Now, I get it, and I understand. I'm not naive to the fact that usually the guy that wins the Coach of the Year award is the coach who takes the team that kind of flies under the radar or exceeds expectations or are overachievers. I understand that. Do I think it's fair? No. Because people think that it's easy to coach a great team. People think it's easy to coach for a long time. I mentioned this on the show yesterday. Scotty Bowman, in my opinion, pound for pound, is probably the greatest coach in North American sports. Why? Because he didn't just do it at one place. He won with Montreal. He won with Pittsburgh. He won with Detroit. He brought what worked for him to 3 completely different markets and was able to win multiple championships, not just one. So that, to me, is why Scotty Bowman, if asked me to put my money on the best coach you've ever seen, it's Scotty Bowman. And we're very lucky to be able to see him up here in the press box at Benchmark International Arena. But one thing that even Scotty knew is that every coach has a shelf life, and you got to know when to move on. And you have to understand that sometimes, even if your message is right, even some of the best players in the world are going to tune you out. They need a different deliverer of that message. And the fact that Jon Cooper, after all this time, can continue to adjust his message to get the most out of his players does not get enough attention here in the Tampa. Well, does not get enough attention nationally. It gets a lot of attention here in the Tampa Bay area. And it's kind of funny, as I'm saying that, you start thinking about the Buccaneers. You start thinking about that with Todd Bowles, right? Thinking about those messages and the lack of communication and, we've had a lot of miscommunications on the back end and all the stuff with walkthroughs and what Yaya Diaby had to say yesterday. And communication is key. It's paramount. And I said this yesterday on the program, and I'll say it again today. If you're a coach and you're constantly blaming your players for not being able to execute the game plan that you put in, eventually you're pointing your one finger, those 3 fingers are pointing back at you. It is your job, it is your role as the leader of your team, as the coach, to adjust your message and adjust your game plan so that these people can execute it in a way to make your team successful. If that doesn't happen, you know what's going to happen? It's going to cost you your job. And that's why Todd Bowles and his job security, it's up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen. He doesn't even know what's going to happen. He could say whatever the hell he wants at the press conference yesterday. I guarantee you he is not 100% either way. But maybe he knows he's fired. Who knows? We'll talk to Greg about that here in a couple minutes. But for Jon Cooper to be as successful this year, at this point of his career, with this team, does not get talked about enough nationally. You're talking about a guy that has missed a chunk of games, not a little bit. This is a guy that has played the majority of his games without his captain, Victor Hedman, without Ryan McDonough, without Eric Chernak. Those are your 3 best defensemen. And you're talking about one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. This is a team that played a bunch of games without Andrei Vasilevsky, one of the top 3 goalies in the world. And what does Jon Cooper do? Jon Cooper keeps this team humming right along. This team has missed so many games due to injury. We haven't seen them at full blast at all this season. We have yet to see, maybe opening night, maybe a couple of games here and there. But have we seen any kind of sustained either success or play with this team? It's ridiculous. It is wild to me. And the reason why this grinds my gears is there was a post that came out on social media yesterday from NHL.com. And they gave their opinions on who should be the coach of the year as of right now. And overwhelmingly, the number one choice was Jared Bednar, the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche. And I have nothing but respect for Jared Bednar, a Stanley Cup winning coach in his own right. But he, by far, had the most votes. How come Jared Bednar is not graded on the same scale that Jon Cooper has been? How come people don't look at the Colorado Avalanche and say, well, it can't be Jared Bednar. He's got Nathan MacKinnon. He's got Cale Makar, two of the top 10 players in the world. How come when Jon Cooper was the Lightning back in 2019, it was almost a red mark against him that he had Nikita Kucherov, that he had Victor Hedman, that he had Andrei Vasilevsky? How come that was held against Jon Cooper, but it's not being held against Jared Bednar? That's a double standard. I don't quite understand why Jon Cooper and the Lightning are graded in such a way. I don't understand why people don't give them their due. They're not fraudulent. This is a team, this is an organization that is still littered with guys from their back-to-back Stanley Cup runs. I don't understand. You got a bunch of people, and this is the thing. As much as I love hockey, I think the people that cover this sport are some of the most out-of-touch people that I see in sports media. Let's not forget, and I told you this before the break, 95% of these so-called experts that cover this game didn't even have Anthony Cirelli on their roster for Team Canada. Oh, Berard this and Scheifele this and blah, blah, blah. Even though there was a track record of Cirelli and Hagel being with Team Canada on the Four Nations, playing under Jon Cooper, playing for a guy like Julien Brisebois. But these experts, no, let's just put the 12 top scorers on Team Canada. That's going to happen. Those are the experts. And some of those same people now are telling us that Jared Bednar should win Coach of the Year because they have 3 regulation losses. Now it doesn't matter if you have the best team because that signifies a great coach. That is ridiculous to me. It's asinine. Jon Cooper is the longest tenured coach in the National Hockey League. You could argue that he is the best coach in the 4 major sports right now. And if he's not, he's in your top 3 or top 5. There is no way you're giving me 5 better coaches in professional sports right now than Jon Cooper. Not going to happen. And then, oh yeah, didn't you hear what I just said? Team Canada. This is your sport. This is your national sport. And the guy that helped you win it in the 4 nations that you brought back to try to win a gold medal in the Olympics, what the hell does that tell you? That tells you that the guy is a pretty damn good coach. But for some reason, for some freaking reason, the lack of respect from the national experts and national pundits rears its ugly head again. No love for Nikita Kucherov. And I get it. He's an ornery guy. He has his moments. People are still pissed off about the skills competition. But I told you before the skills competition ever happened, because I was the only member of the Tampa Bay media that was in Toronto for the All-Star game that year. The only one. And I spoke to a bunch of different people. And what did everybody tell me? Nathan MacKinnon's going to be the MVP this year. It's his turn. It's his time. What the hell are we even talking about? And then when you talk to Nathan MacKinnon, you know what he says? You know who Nathan MacKinnon's favorite player is? Nikita Kucherov. Because Nathan MacKinnon goes, Jay, everybody knows when I'm out there because I have to fly around the ice and skate at 1,000,000 miles an hour to get things done. Cooch looks like it's a walk in the park. He envies the guy. He understands his greatness. The players do. There is such and it's amazing after all of these years. And I get it. It's hockey. It's Florida. It's a non-traditional hockey market. If you still want to bring that kind of stuff up, fine. Fine. But this is a franchise. This is an organization that has won 3 Stanley Cups since any team north of the border has won one. We haven't seen a Canadian team hoist the Stanley Cup since 1993. Patrick Waugh and the Montreal Canadiens. That is embarrassing. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it. If you're tacky, if you're jealous, if you're envious, but all of these so-called experts in North America that consistently shit on Jon Cooper and the Tampa Bay Lightning, you need to get your head examined. Year in, year out, this team is one of the best in the National Hockey League. He is the head coach of Team Canada, and he's doing his best job this year with Ryan McDonough, Eric Chernak, Victor Hedman all missing a ton of games. Andrei Vasilevsky missing time. Just go look up their statistics and look how many players have played in every single game this year. Jake Gensel is 1. Oliver Bjorkstrand is 2. And Yanni Gourde is 3. You've had 3 guys. 3 that have played all 41 games. Crazy. Crazy. Declan Carlisle, Max Crozier, Curtis Douglas, Emil Lilleberg, who's also missing time. All of those guys. Charles-Edouard Dastou. Half of the people that cover the NHL don't even know how to spell Charles. Charles-Edouard Dastou has played 16 more games this year than Victor Hedman. Coop has found magic with Pontus Holmberg and Zemgus Girgensons and Yanni Gourde. He continues to change these lines and put these guys in a position to succeed and get the most out of a club that has missed a ton of not just their best players, but their best leaders. And Coop's not even in the top 3? You're nuts. You are absolutely insane. That is not bias, because you know that I watch more than just the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's mind-boggling. One day, the Tampa Bay Lightning will get the credit that they deserve. Maybe one day. But it sure as hell ain't today. And I'm not the only one saying this. I'm just the only person that has a platform to be able to do so. I just, my God, man. Mind-numbing. Frustrating. I try to put all these things together, and you give the people the benefit of the doubt, and you try to see where people are coming from, because I understand. We don't all think the same. I get it. I understand. But my God. Not even in the top 3? They had him at 5th? What the hell are you smoking? Do they drug test at NHL.com? I got to ask Corey Long. I wonder if he voted. Woo! And again, I say all these things about Jon Cooper. And these are all things that I wish I could say about Todd Bowles. The ability to change, the ability to adapt, the ability to put his players in a position to succeed. That's one of the biggest problems when it comes to Todd Bowles. And that's one of the biggest problems that, comes with good coaches and bad coaches. Bad coaches, or maybe not bad coaches, but the great coaches. You know what you don't hear from Jon Cooper? You know what you don't hear from a guy like Joe Urso? You don't hear them bitching and moaning and complaining about why the players aren't paying attention, or why they're not executing their game plan, or why they don't have said players because of injuries. Nobody's trying to hear that. You get paid millions of dollars to be a coach. Figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, it's going to cost you your job. And it always brings me back to one of the most incriminating press conferences that Greg and I have ever seen. When we sat there and we asked Dirk Cutter, how are you going to fix it? And Dirk looked at us and he said, I don't know. Less than a week later, Dirk was gone, and you move on. We're going to move on and talk to our good pal, Greg Auman, here in a second. I want to make sure that there we go. There he is, our pal Greg Auman from Fox Sports. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Doing good, man. You look sharp.
Thanks, man. I'm feeling good here at Benchmark. I'm trying to be, I was going to say more opinionated this year. I'm not trying to be mad every day, but I see this thing of Jon Cooper not getting credit, and it's crazy to me because I watch this team and you are one of those people, because I'll always remember this about you. We were at like 3 different sporting events on the same day. We both walked into Tropicana Field after being at One Buck and Amalie for something. But it's so crazy to me how it's almost impossible, right, Greg, to not use some of the things that you learn from one team or one coach and not apply it. Because I look at Jon Cooper and Coop goes, what am I supposed to do? I can't complain about Hedman. I can't complain about injuries. And then, I'm sitting right next to you in the press conference yesterday, and Bowles is like, well, we don't execute. And we had guys injured. Like, it's, at the end of the day, people don't want to hear that, do they?
No, I miss hockey, honestly, man. It's like to see you there, to think about covering Coop. You get back to like 17, 18.
Yeah, man.
Was all over it. I missed my freelance days, being able to do stuff on the side. Fox doesn't care that much about hockey.
No, they don't.
For the bosses. But yeah, it's Coop. Obviously, like you said, everybody weathers injuries. I do think the Bucks have had more than their shake of injuries this year, so I think it's fair to bring it up. Right. They talk about next man up all the time. So I think, especially when you're done with the season, you're looking back, I think you could appreciate that things did definitely impact them. Again, you can't let that be the excuse or the main excuse or anything like that. I think it's fair to mention it in the context of why things weren't what they were supposed to be for the Bucks this year. Absolutely. I think, again, I think ideally you can find ways to work around it. The first half of the season, they did a really good job of somehow just finding a play at the end of the game. And it wasn't like they won by much, but they got it done. And then just as consistently in the second half, they really weren't able to close it out. And whether they're depleted or not, they're not winning games at the end the way they were.
What was your sentiment when you walked out yesterday of just how that whole press conference went? A bias because I asked the question, but I'm not a fan of, what would you do kind of retorts to questions. And I thought it was fair. And I just talked to our pal Ed Encina. I asked him about the special teams coach, Thomas McGahee, and I felt, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, because I definitely defer to somebody like you who I look up to. But I feel like I didn't ask it in a way where, why didn't you fire the guy? I thought I gave him an out. And I said, coach, why isn't it so easy? Like people would just say, fire the special teams coach. Why is it not so easy? And he kind of came back like, who would you put there? And I don't like defensive answers, right? Especially when you know that somebody in the media is like, you can tell I was being careful with it. I wasn't trying to paint you into a corner. But like things like that, I look at that as a sign of weakness. Like, dude, everybody and their mother's looking at how bad your special teams are. Sean McVay fired his special team coach. He's never fired a guy in season. Right. So don't act like this is an unprecedented things that people don't do. What was your just takeaway from the press conference yesterday with how Todd Bowles handled everything?
Yeah, first just talk about the question you asked. It's one of those where I get it in that I feel like special teams, especially if you're trying to change things in the middle of the season, it's hard to bring somebody in from outside.
Right.
And it's kind of like if they can't execute the stuff you've been asking them to do since July,
right?
It's hard to bring a guy in on a Tuesday and have a different scheme work better on Sunday or even next Sunday. So again, like you can promote from within. The Rams fired a guy and just had an interim coach. So Keith Tandy's there. He's the assistant special teams coach. He could take over, but he's also been pretty closely involved in everything that's been wrong so far to this point. So that's one of those where I think they made some fundamental decisions, start kicking touchback. Like the return coverage unit was poor enough. They just conceded the touchback. And they said, whenever possible, we're just going to kick it in the end zone. We're going to take it at the 35 and start there. It's kind of like you get to a point where you want to give up on coverage and you just remove it from the equation. And Bowles said it's tough and that there's guys that are on that roster just for special teams coverage. And you're basically saying, hey, you can take this part off. We're going to concede the 35. The difference isn't a huge thing. They were averaging about the 31 before that. 4 yards is nice. Every drive, it's not going to make or break you. That's where I think he comes from with that answer. But the press conference as a whole, I mean, for Todd to talk for about 20 minutes, really hadn't changed his tone or his message or anything at all. I don't know that I expected him to. If you thought he was going to be more contrite, more owning the losses of this season, apologetic to fans, he wasn't. And again, it's one of those where I think Todd knows he's not winning the public sentiment right now. If you put any poll online, no matter what site you go to, you put a poll online, hey, should Todd Bowles be back for 26? It's not pretty. It's as approval ratings go, it might be single digits for some sites. But the public isn't making this decision. The Glazers are. That's probably a good thing for Todd. I think the team will sit back and recognize that they gave him a 3-year extension. So they're on the hook for a decent amount of money. If they walk away, NFL teams walk away from coaches with guaranteed money left on the contract all the time. It could be 20 million, it could be 25. I don't know what the money is, but that's a concession. This is a team that operates in the hundreds of millions every year. So if you have a chance to swap out the person in charge of your entire team on the field, that's worth that change. So I think Todd recognizes that it's up to the Glazers. The Glazers, it would seem, have a patience with him to appreciate that, hey, won the division the first 3 years he was the head coach, did have some mitigating circumstances in terms of injuries, taking away players on both sides. Regardless, that's not how you want to finish. I mean, this team has had basically 2 months of just sustained negativity and fans getting angrier and angrier by the week. So for you to choose to bring that guy back and say, hopefully we don't lose too many fans in the stands, hopefully they're patient the way we are, it puts you in a position where if you don't come out of the gates playing well next year, it's all back and then some. And now you're looking at a midseason firing if things can go well. That isn't a great place to be either. So I think, again, we don't even know if the Glazers have made a decision yet. Most NFL teams, if they're firing a guy next morning, night of, got an email and you're gone. So they can certainly be patient if they want to make sure they're making the right decision here and wait. I don't know why you would trot Todd Bowles out there to talk about the team in the present tense and moving forward if you intended to fire him. And I don't think anything he said Monday on the podium will change things one way or the other. So it's just a weird purgatory that they're in right now. Not sure whether he's back, whether he's not. Fans aren't sure what they want. So it's a mess. And I mean, it could be one of those where congratulations to whoever scored that looks
testing it up.
I'll be honest. But I think part of it is that they kind of have to negotiate with him the bloodletting, which coaches are going to be let go, which assistants are going to have to be fired. Again, McGahee, I think we all know that special teams was so horrific that Thomas McGahee won't be back. I don't think they want to announce or confirm one hire without all of them. And I think when Todd says like, oh, we still have some evaluating to do, I think that's more, I want to be able to tell my people face to face and then let everybody know, as opposed to them finding out in a press conference, even if it seems obvious what their future is.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic too. And after we, I chat with you, I'm going to kind of go into my little monologue on the kind of the dichotomy of Manchester United and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because it's my favorite team and they drive me freaking nuts. But Ruben Amorim, who got let go yesterday, he coached the game this weekend knowing that he was going to get fired, and his post-game press conference spoke like a man that knew he was fired. So I think, if anything, it kind of shows you how little involved the Glazers are right now with what's going on the other side of the pond. We mentioned assistant coaches. Josh Grizzard is definitely going to be one of those guys, Greg. What do you think about his future? Because, I said it on the show yesterday. You're talking about a guy that spent all this time and all the things. And I wish more people, and you do such a great job with this, I wish more people would just kind of remember what teams say in the beginning of the season. They told us how great Sebastian Dennis was in coverage. He might have been one of the worst in the league. Liam Cohen told us last year how difficult it was to have a 3 running back system. And we were lauding Josh Grizzard because he spent so much time with Liam Cohen. And then I didn't see creativity. I didn't see Mike McDaniel creativity. I didn't see a guy that knew how to deploy 3 running backs, nor how to get 4 wide receivers involved in the offense. Those guys combined for 700 yards in the last 4 weeks and only 4 touchdowns. And that was 2 from Godwin and 2 from Evans. I don't know if Josh Grizzard is that guy going forward that is really going to get the most and the best out of Baker Mayfield and this offense. And people were like, oh, well, 30 rushes. And why are they rushing the ball 30 times? I think this team was 12-2 the last 2 years, Greg, under Canales and Cohen when they ran the ball 30 times. They were 3-3 this year. What is that? Does that with rushing attempts, or does that have to do with the offense or the offensive line? What's your take on Grizzard and kind of how he did this year? And is he going to be the guy going forward?
Yeah, a couple different things there. Like the 30 carry thing is a little bit funny in that it's not, I think most fans understand this, but like rushing 30 times in a game is usually a reflection of you leading in that game.
True.
It's not like you start out and you got 29 carries and you get to number 30 and they're like, you figured it out. And they just walk off the field. It's not causal. So teams that rush that much usually have the lead, and teams with the lead usually win. Like the Bucs did a really good job in the second game against Carolina, running the ball a lot, keeping Carolina off the field. It kind of worked in a way it didn't work 2 weeks earlier against them. But to take a step back with Grizzard, the first thing I'll say is that last year's offense was exceptional. What Liam Cohen did, again, they took like a baby step forward under Canales, kind of weathered the getting Tom Brady off your team and still being okay with Canales. And Canales got a head coaching job out of that.
Sure.
But like Cohen, I mean, they went from like 20th best to a top 5 offense under Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen got probably a $60 million contract out of that. Has had a great year with Jacksonville, validated everything you saw with him last year. So to begin with, I want to say that it was unfair to expect Josh Grizzard to be Liam Cohen this year and to have another top 5. I think I fully expected you take a step back. I don't think I would expect it would be all the way back. They basically had the same offense, numbers, success, scoring that they had under Canales. It's just because it wasn't Cohen, it's a glaring step back. And it's a step back in almost everything. They ran the ball about a yard per carry less. They threw the ball about a yard per play less. I mean, there's lots of things that step back. It's not like going from Liam to Josh is the only change from year to year. I was looking today. I mean, you have the offensive line injuries. You think about Evans, Godwin, McMillan as their best 3 receivers. And I think they played, 21 games out of 51. So less than half a season on average for those 3. So it for me, the pause in like, should Josh Grizzard be fired is, do you think it's fair to evaluate him on what he did this year? If you knew he's 5 years younger than Cohen, less experienced than Cohen, first-time play caller, what were you expecting this to be? And how do you caveat that with all the injuries he had to do, especially early in the year?
Isn't that the problem, though, Greg?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's my thing is and the same thing goes for Bowles is like, caveats to me are very scary, very scary. Like Yaya Diaby is another thing. Well, the pressures are good. And how does he rank here? Like, I feel like that's a real slippery slope. And you're a guy that it's perfect to talk about this because you and I are always looking at different numbers and looking at, from a different perspective rather than just saying what everybody else is saying. Yeah. But I feel like if you use caveats too much,
sure,
you're just kind of you're trying to operate in the gray area when in essence it's black or white. You either did the job or you did. Like, I get it, all those different things. But if I would have told you down the stretch, yeah, you missed 2 of your offensive linemen, but you still had Wirfs, Gedeke, and Barton, you're like, those are the 3 I would want, right? In the last 4 games, you had all 7 of your guys and Kate Otten. So, right, you had all 8 of those guys. So with those caveats now being taken out, then we should have saw this, and we didn't. And I think that's maybe some of the problems that I have with Josh Grizzard. And here's some breaking news. I don't know if you just saw this. Cliff Kingsbury has now mutually parted ways with the Washington Commanders to pursue other opportunities. Does that mean another offensive coordinator? Does it mean as a head coach? I mean, obviously, he can't make a lateral move, so he wasn't going to leave there just to go take another OC job. But What do you think? I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, we obviously know what he did with, in the college ranks, and then also going to Arizona, getting rid of Josh Rosen after 1 year, going with Kyler Murray. But, everybody looks at what he did last year with Jaden Daniels as a rookie. Incredible. And, Washington was the only team that had a bigger drop-off in points last year or this year than the Bucs, and Jaden Daniels played, 7 games or whatever. So give me Cliff Kingsbury, man. What do you think? What kind of option would he be for the Buccaneers as far as offensive coordinator, maybe even head coach?
Yeah, I think Kingsbury is a lot like Kevin Stefanski, and that good offensive mind would be a smart match for the Bucs if they didn't have Baker Mayfield at quarterback. He's got a history with those two guys, and it's not a good history. So, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was the coach at Texas Tech when Baker Mayfield got there as a walk-on, and Baker Mayfield wanted to get away from Texas Tech and Cliff Kingsbury enough that he left to go to Oklahoma, was willing to sit an entire year after starting just to get away from him. So, I mean, there's been times where they've met up in the past in the NFL and they've kind of said they're in a better place, they're in a good place. Not I would choose to work with you as the main person leading me kind of way. Kevin Stefanski, again, had Baker in Cleveland. They know each other well, not in a good way, not in a way that Baker would want to play for. So both those guys, I think, are great offensive minds. And if you're trying to get a new OC, if you want an offensive-minded head coach, both of them could wind up doing exactly that in the NFL. It's not going to be something the Bucs are going to choose to make Mayfield uncomfortable and unhappy as a quarterback. I really don't expect that at all.
What about Baker Mayfield too? Because I did a deep dive into Baker. I know he was an MVP candidate, and excuse the music in the background here as the Rink of Dreams. So the ham and eggers that live in the Tampa Bay area get to play on the ice. I think this is one of the coolest things ever. Where do you fall on Baker? Because to me, Greg, and again, I'm not, me, I'm not one of those guys fire this guy sucks. I'm more of an optimist. I'm a realist, but I'm more of an optimist. I want guys to do well. But it is worrisome that he's not the biggest guy in the world. The only way that he's going to be productive is if he is kind of running for first downs and lowering his shoulder every once in a while. But if you're not playing well because you're not 100%, who's 100% week 18? And also hitting guys in the chest doesn't help. And I looked up this stat when I was looking up Grizzard. Baker's only won 11 games in his entire 8-year career when he's thrown the ball more than 35 times. And he's only won 2 games when he's thrown it over 40. Now, the majority of guys aren't going to have a glowing record because just as you alluded to when it came to rushing attempts, you throw the ball that many times, you're behind. But I looked at a guy like Jared Goff. He's won, I think, triple the amount of games in both of those aspects than Baker Mayfield. And I think that's a fair comp. You're not going to compare Baker to Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. But what do you make as far as Baker and his job and also whether the team is going to commit to him long term? Because I don't hear many people talking about right now, we got to sign Baker to an extension. How much does that have to do with maybe who the next coach is? I'm not saying get rid of him and people say, all right, well, who are you going to bring in there? I'm not going that far, but I think I don't know if people are as comfortable about where they're at with Baker Mayfield, let's say right now, as they were maybe 12 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, this year was a mixed bag for Baker. I mean, if you go back to before this season, when he's coming off of 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, there's people that wanted Baker to get a new deal with 2 years left on his contract. And I think that the Bucs kind of compromised. The Bucs, guaranteed his 26 money basically as a compromise, as a gesture of good faith. Hey, you're not going to get yourself cut after 2 years. So, mid-year this year, I mean, you look at the first 8 games when they're 6-2. I think if you include the Patriots game, Baker's 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Okay, he's done exactly what you wanted in terms of minimizing turnovers after tying for the league lead in interceptions last year, doing exactly what you need him to do. And then, again, takes a couple injuries, whether it's the oblique, whether it's the non-throwing shoulder. I think he had 7 different injuries on the injury report. And again, like you said, some of that is Baker being Baker. Baker running downfield, Baker lowering his shoulder on people. I think we've jokingly talked about trying to rein him in. I think Bowles has kind of suggested know when to pick your punches. No, if it's 3rd and 9 in the 4th quarter, maybe barrel into somebody. If it's, 1st and 10, the 1st quarter, there's no need to do that. Slide, go out of bounds. These are things Baker's working on. to get the good of Baker, you also take these weird unnecessary injury risks that come with it. So Baker in the second half was not a good quarterback. I mean, if you look at his last, I forget what it changed with Saturday, but I think it's 9 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in the last, whatever it is, 8 games. 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter, 3 games in a row, to where those games that Baker pulled out amazingly in Houston and against Atlanta and against the I don't know, the Jets was that way too, I guess. All these early wins turned into close losses. And Baker, again, misfiring with Mike Evans or trying too hard on this play. So I don't think Baker's as good as he was in the first half of this year. I don't think he's as bad as he was in the second half of this year. But if on the Bucs, I probably can't see what he's been in the last 2.5 months and give him $100 million guaranteed. So the good thing for the Bucs is that he's under contract for next year. They don't really have to. I mean, if they wanted to go long term right now with him, it might be that he commands less money. I mean, instead of him being a $45 or a $50 million quarterback, maybe he's a $40 million quarterback for 2 more years. I think they love Baker Mayfield as a leader. I think they love the way he's guided this team post Brady. But again, we've seen the vulnerabilities, we've seen the weaknesses in terms of exposing himself to injury, having some trouble with turnovers and takeaways. I think they're fully confident to move forward with Baker. I do think they have to get a better backup quarterback, because I think if you had a Kirk Cousins or a Mac Jones or any of these guys that have stepped in for multi-game stints and won games this year, even like a Davis Mills, I think if you had that, you wouldn't have had to play Baker all those games. And because they had a Teddy Bridgewater kind of coming off the sidelines from South Florida, probably didn't have a lot of confidence in him being able to win and play at a high level. So you keep trotting out Baker when he's hurt. So I think it'll help Baker, honestly, if you upgrade. If you spend $8 million on a backup quarterback this year, draft somebody high you really like as a potential successor or something, just somebody to where you would feel comfortable if Baker's at 70%, thinking that somebody else might give you a chance to win. I think if Baker gets back on course, if 26 is anything like 24 or the first half of 25, they're going to be happy to write a huge check and make him their quarterback moving forward with a big extension. I think he's done everything you're supposed to do. I just think he got inconsistent and obviously didn't win in the second half of 25. And because of that, there's a pause and there's a hesitation that maybe they don't have to do anything until they see who he is next season. And if that goes well, it's something you want to reward.
Which players are for sure gone, you think?
Oh, I mean, Hassan Reddick isn't back. I know that. I mean, they've got a lot of middling free agents that are depth pieces they don't need. I mean, the two biggest names, Rachaad White. I'm sorry, Rachaad White, I think, is gone, and I think that's probably in Rashad's best interest, just to find a team where he has a clearer path to competing for a starting role, getting the kind of role he wants. He's been a secondary back for them, even when Bucky was kind of underperforming this year. I don't think Rachaad had an amazing year. I can see why he would want to get a fresh start. He's also had, 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years. So going to a new system probably isn't going to throw him off that much. Cade Otton is another guy who's a free agent, was an every down tight end for them this year. Probably didn't play the way they want him to maybe until Saturday. I mean, Saturday had a nice game, made the catches he needed to. But again, if you move on from Cade Otton, you're losing the guy that plays like 90% of your snaps at tight end. So you're going to have to either pay to bring somebody else in or use a decent draft pick, maybe a 3rd round pick on a tight end or something to try and offset that. I don't know how much Cade's going to get, how expensive he'll be. I think they like Cade as a player. I just don't know if they're going to be the team that pays him the most in free agency. The biggest questions, of course, are Mike Evans and Levante David. And to listen to Levante came in post-game, to hear him thanking reporters for their coverage over the last 14 years, that's generally something you do as a parting gift on the way out. I think he's correct to not make a decision right now while he's in the emotion of his last game. But to see Levante this year, I thought he looked a step slower. And again, it's completely okay for him to look 35 years old. He's 35 years old. So he's at an age where most linebackers are long done playing. He's had an amazing run. I think it's almost poetic for him to get to finish his career with exactly the same number of tackles as Derrick Brooks, because they're very much 2 peas in a pod, just iconic leaders, long-term longevity, consistency, playmakers. I think Levante has an uphill battle for Hall of Fame. I think if you can get Luke Kuechly in, if you can get Bobby Wagner in, if you put his career numbers up against them, it looks really good. That's the easiest way to get past the fact that he doesn't have the Pro Bowls or the All Pros, the currency that people count when they're trying to find whether someone's a Hall of Famer or not. An amazing run he's had. I don't want to presume it's done, but he sounded like somebody who was okay walking away with what he's done for 14 years. Mike Evans, probably a little trickier. We talked to Mike before the game at the bank appearance he had, and like Mike didn't like that fans were wishing him well. Like he said, they're writing him off. I think they mean well. But again, Mike's another guy who's just absolutely beloved here and has played his entire career in one place. You know how much it means to Mike to play his whole career in one place. So I think if he wants to come back, if he somehow thinks he'll be healthier and wants to end on a better note than this year when he was really limited by injuries, saw the streak come to an end, saw the playoff streak come to an end. If you think the Bucs are going to be better and you want to be a part of that, I can see why he'd come back. I don't know how much the Bucs want to pay him. Do the Bucs want to pay him $20 million a year? I would hate to see him finish his career somewhere else, like Lynch did, like Sapp did. I think he wants to finish his career here. I don't know if he wants to walk away yet. I don't think he knows yet. You know, he's got to take account of how he feels physically. There could be more changes. It could be another coordinator here in Tampa. It could be another coach here in Tampa. Does he want to put up with all that? So I think it's a complicated decision he probably hasn't made yet. But I feel bad for Bucs fans if they went through this arduous, terrible second half of the season, and now they also have to say goodbye to two icons in Levante and in Mike Evans. But I think that's definitely a chance of that happening. And that's, you know, in terms of losing core parts of your team, you'd have to go back to, you know, the year Brooks left or the year that Sapp and Lynch are gone. I mean, you haven't lost two guys that big in 1 year in a long time. But I think that's definitely something that's possible. Wouldn't surprise me if Mike comes back, plays again, gets 1,000 yards, helps them get back to where they want to be. I don't know what that's going to be, though.
That's scary. I wonder what Bucs fans are scares them more. Todd Bowles returning or those two guys not returning? Last one for me, Greg. Again, thank you so much for your time. What does Jason Licht have to do? How much does he have to wear? I think, and I'm going to put a video out a little bit later from yesterday's show, he's got to wear some of this too. He really does. I mean, because I think the lack of a pass rush, lack of the inside linebacker position, I don't think they did enough. I think you put this I think I saw this in your conversation. I actually put it on mine. It was funny. Great minds. Not replacing Robert Hainsey, I think was huge. And I think knowing that Tristan Wirfs was going to be out for that long, and your answer week one was your center, your second-year center, who still is not, you know, he hasn't developed, I think, as much as everybody would want. But him starting at left tackle in week one and not having a Charlie Heck type, right? Like not having another guy. And I know left tackles don't grow on trees. I get that. But the fact that was the way that they went about it, I feel like Jason Licht did not have his best year as far as roster construction. What is your take on what he did in 25 and what he needs to do in 26 to get this team back in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely gambles they took that came back to bite them in terms of, you know, you think about all the things we talked about as positional needs, you know, and it definitely started with linebacker going into this year. Not only thinking about life after Levante, but just upgrading on what they had with, you know, KJ Britt. So I think they trusted Servasia Dennis more than they probably needed to not address linebacker at all in the draft, to not put, I mean, they gave Anthony Walker almost nothing, and Anthony Walker got hurt. So to not do anything at linebacker and put all of your chips on Dennis looked bad. Again, the biggest gamble they took was taking Reddick and trusting that Reddick would be the guy he was 2020 to 2023 and not the guy who had a sack and a half for the Jets. And he pretty much was that guy, unfortunately. I get they had Larry Foote vouching for him. They got him probably cheaper than most pass rushers would be in that market. But again, 2.5 sacks. Like it didn't work the way you wanted to. So that's two major gambles there. The Dean thing with the pay cut actually probably worked out pretty well for them. Taking an injured player like Benjamin Morrison, having him be injured perpetually throughout his rookie year, if he's healthy, that's probably a different secondary. We saw glimpses of Ben Morrison, but not the guy that they wanted to be from the second round. So for Jason, I think, again, he has a lot of talent on this roster. That hasn't changed. A lot of young talent still on rookie contracts. There's not a lot of free agents you really have to worry about paying. They already took care of Gedeke. They're probably questioning, given McCollum the money he got with the way he played after he got the money, that's kind of already, they have to move forward with that and deal with that. So for Jason, I think they have to be more aggressive this year. I think this can't be a year where you only re-sign your own. They have to go out and actively find help, because the draft isn't enough picks to fill all the holes they have right now. I think edge and linebacker are the two glaring needs. You look at the second half of this season, they had 12 sacks in their last 9 games, just an inexcusably low amount of sacks. And it's not like there was pressure that just didn't show up in sacks. So there are real needs that they're going to have to address aggressively, spend some money to bring in outside free agents, which is not their MO. And I think what's intriguing is that the NFC South is going to be seen as wide open, because the two teams that met in week 18 with the division on the line probably weren't the two best teams in the second half, in the last month of the season, at least. So I think you have New Orleans moving forward. I think you have Carolina now with the confidence of being a playoff team, maybe having more confidence in their quarterback. Atlanta is resetting again. So you don't know how long that'll take, but I think it'll be seen in a division that's wide open. And that when you look at predictions and over-unders, there's probably not going to be more than about 2 or 3 games between the best team in the NFC South and the worst. So now there's a challenge. Now it's a sprint. It's a 1 year. Who wants to be the team to beat again in the NFC South? Because the Bucs have had that for so long. They don't have that now. And maybe that suits them. Maybe they'll like being an underdog. Maybe they'll like not having everyone putting a target on their back. But Jason Light's challenge, again, if Todd Bowles is back, he definitely needs to have a step forward with Todd Bowles getting back to 10-7 kind of year and not 8-9 championships. And there's still a world where he might have to be hiring a head coach and making that work. So I think he has a much busier offseason, a much more active offseason than he's had to have these last couple of years.
Kind of crazy if they do move on from Bowles, how many chances that Light gets to get a new head coach in here. General managers don't usually get that kind of leash.
That's a weird thing where Lovey wasn't his.
Yeah, it's been a weird thing. Yeah,
Kirk was in-house. Bowles from Arians to Arians is really the only full outright hire that he's made. But again, he's a guy who's almost exclusively gone with people he knows and knows well. So who are those guys and these candidates if they're out there? Who does he have a connection with? Not as many as you'd think. So I'll be curious to see how that shakes out.
No doubt about it. At Greg Auman, Fox Sports. What are you doing now, Bucs? Well, obviously you're waiting for any kind of news for the Bucs, but you doing anything for the postseason? Traveling anywhere?
Busy weekend. Doing Panthers and Jags. Doing my tour of Bucs coordinators past. I get Canales on Saturday and Cohen on Sunday, and probably a little bit more miles than I like to drive, but excited to cover 2 playoff games in a weekend.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you so much for all your help this year. You've been such a great friend and a colleague and a mentor to me, and I always appreciate the kind words and all of your time. So best travels this weekend, and I'm sure we'll talk soon, my friend. Thank you so much for everything. Keep up the great work.
No worries, man. Always happy to come on. Have a good one.
You too, buddy. The one and only Greg Auman from Fox Sports. It just doesn't get better than that. Dude, I tried not to keep guys on too long. I thought that might have went 30 minutes, but me and Greg, man, we could just go and go and go. He's the man, isn't he? I mean, he's such a smart guy and such a nice person. If you watch Greg Auman, he's a guy that retweets people's stuff. He likes people's stuff. It's not like that. Everybody's not like that. A guy with that many followers always has time. He's just such a good dude. And he told me, he's like, there's just not enough positive things on social media. He's just that kind of dude. All right, so I want to tell you something. I put this out on Twitter, I think, at 1 a.m. because it was bothering me. I forgot to put it out there because I was listening to Tom Krasnicki yesterday on the drive, and people were talking about how, the Glazers, they're not going to be concerned with what's going on with Todd and the Bucs because they're too focused on what is going on with Ruben Amorim and Manchester United. Wrong. Up until this morning, and I want to say probably, it's because 5 hours, 5 hours behind there. I didn't see anything this morning, or I didn't see anything until this morning that made any mention of the Glazers in association with Ruben Amorim getting sacked by Manchester United. That's what they call it in the soccer world, guys. Getting sacked, getting fired, getting let go, getting sacked. That's the way it goes. And I just brought it up with Greg here. It's kind of wild that Greg said, like, I wouldn't think that the Glazers would have Todd Bowles do the press conference on Monday if they were letting him go. When, in essence, after Manchester United drew on Sunday, they let Byrum coach, and he ended up doing the press conference. And he pretty much went scorched earth on the hierarchy for Manchester United and even old players like Gary Neville, who's been very critical of Ruben Amorim. What you guys fail to recognize is that when the Glazers have sold some of their share of Manchester United to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who was one of the richest men in the United Kingdom, and they have Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada running the show over there. Those are the guys that are dealing with all of the decisions right now when it comes to Manchester United. The first time that I saw anything about the Glazers and United and Amorim was this morning in an article written by The Athletic saying that the Glazers have been questioning Ruben Amorim in his position since August. That was it. That was it. I thought it was comical because I tweeted that out at 1:00, and then the first mention, it was August. That's what it is. It's not, the Glazers, they had a meeting a couple weeks ago, or the Glazers flew in to Manchester to have a discussion with the hierarchy on that side of the pond. No, it was they had questions in August. August? Freaking 5 months ago? Yeah. And then there was another thing later on in the article talking about they're focused on what's going on over here on this side and on the commercial side rather than everything that's going on with Manchester United. There's a dichotomy. There's a break between these two. And I know there is precedent before of the Glazers after a couple of days, because the same thing happened to Lovey, right? So I wouldn't say either way that Bowles was safe, nor would I say he's gone. I after being at that press conference yesterday, I didn't walk out of that building thinking, wow, that's the right guy for the job. I didn't take any type of takeaway of, wow, he's here, so that means he's safe. Because again, and oh, look, Joe Bucks fan just said the same thing. Love you, Joe. Thank you, buddy. Go to joebucksfan.com. Unbelievable stories, especially this time of year. They're all over it. And I want to give a shout out to our guy, Eric Hoffman, Joe Bucks fan. Incredible tweet from the game the other night. Luke Kuechly, Levante David. The only thing that got left out of the tweet, Joe, was that there was one person that pointed out Luke Kuechly standing over there by himself and told Ira to go talk to him. That was this guy. Oh, it was unbelievable. But yes, Joe, you're right on top. Right on top of it. And that's why and Greg, I don't think says that saying like that's definitely going to happen. But I think most would assume. But we've seen from the Glazers, because there are so many chefs in the kitchen there, that they sometimes get a little thorough with these processes. It takes a couple of days. My whole point of mentioning Manchester United right now is that there's nothing that's going on that side of the pond with Manchester United in flux right now, moving on from Ruben Amorim. And now it looks like we'll see a guy like Darren Fletcher take over for the game tomorrow against Burnley. Probably Ole Gunnar Solskjaer taking over as the interim manager through the rest of this year until the summer, and then changes are made. But there is a big-time disconnect right now between the Glazer family and Manchester United. Now, and I'm not talking about how the fans perceive them. I get that. We've talked about that on the show before. But right now, I look at the situation and I say, whatever happens with Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers, whether they keep him or they get rid of him, it has absolutely nothing with what is going on with Manchester United. And you can take that to the bank. Go check out my guys, joebucksfan.com. and my man Ira Kaufman, the Ira Kaufman podcast. Those guys do a great job. You know who else does a great job? Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, for all your residential and commercial needs. 813-244-0956. Go check them out. My guy, Honest Hammer, he's just a big-time Tampa Bay sports fan, a USF graduate. He is the man. Look at Ira. $3 super chat. Thank you, guys. Stop taking my credit. I love you guys. Thank you so much. We got to get Ira on here soon to talk about the season. We have such a fantastic conversation every time we're together about everything. And talking about Jason Light, talking about Baker Mayfield. That's why I love talking to so many different people when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of people that are afraid to mention certain things and to say certain things about coaches and GMs. And that's why it's good when you go to joebucksfan.com. You see a lot of different perspectives. And Lee and Steve, they're burning the midnight oil too. Because I'm up at the, working on things and getting my stuff ready for Tampa Bay Buccaneers postmortem yesterday. And they're putting out articles at all times of the night. These guys are nuts. But it's a beautiful thing to have so many talented people here in the Tampa Bay media, just like talented guys over at Honest Hammer Custom Builders. Again, showing a lot of love to my guy Hammer, thehonesthammer.com, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. He was at the Bucs game in the rain on Saturday. Him and his wife, they're just the best. And they've been with me since day one. So I appreciate you guys a ton. And of course, EverHealth, 17 different locations in Pinellas County. The EverHealth Injury Report every single Thursday with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. There's so many different people this year that we spoke about on the show. So many different people. And not anybody else was having that discussion. You remember when everybody was talking about the foot injury with Bucky Irving? Who was the person that said the shoulder injury will probably be the thing that keeps him out longer? That was Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. This guy is all over it, and he's such a good dude, man. EverHealth, really the new age in healthcare. This is really where you want to be at. That's sliding scale for the uninsured. They want to be with you from the cradle to the grave. I go there as well. Love our friends at EverHealth. Chan says, legit, Joe Bucks fan is goated for their training camp diaries and off-season coverage. No doubt. Joe Bucks fan, great show on WDAE. Yeah, for real. And listen, the way that I got to meet the guys at Joe Bucks fan was when I used to be the producer for the late, great big dog Steve Dumick. And it's funny that we're talking about this because I just saw Joe tweet something out about the big dog. And whenever I have one of my fiery rants, I don't want to be the big dog, but I feel like sometimes they're inspired by the big dog. And him and I got along so well. Our love of soccer and hockey, and I didn't back down. And I think that's why, we had our back and forths, and he appreciated that. And he was a big supporter. And I know that he's looking down, and I always keep his card is right on my desk in my office. And he's always looking down, like, make sure you bold opinions. And that's why when I have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers postmortem like yesterday and say some things that might make people uncomfortable about Baker Mayfield and Jason Light, Yaya Diaby. It's easy to shit on Todd Bowles. Of course, he's the low-hanging fruit. We understand that. But look at Baker Mayfield's record with 35 and 40 pass attempts. Look at how poor he plays when he gets hurt. Look at what Jason Light did not do with the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebacker position. Look at what Yaya Diaby did this year after telling everybody he's an elite pass rusher. Like, you got to call this stuff out. You got to let people know that it's not good enough. That's our job. So shout out to Joe Bucks fan, Lee, Steve, Ira, and the whole crew over there. Always check them out on WDAE as well. I am here, Benchmark International Arena. And what I want to do for you guys is I want to talk to you about my guy, Gage Goncalves. It was so great to catch up with him today. We spoke for a couple minutes here, and I want to play the video for you guys. But I also want to talk to you about what we spoke about after, about playing with Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, because it's different, man. It's different playing with these guys. And we saw it with the Bucs, with Tom Brady. When you're around greatness, things change. Things change. And the way that you go about your business, as much as it is, some people say, oh, it's easy, just play the same way. It's not like that. It really isn't. Here's what Gage had to say today about, up and down, out of the lineup, in the lineup, but also back playing with Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point and facing a pretty damn good team in Colorado tonight.
We're playing and, scoring goals in certain games. Game 100 tonight, man. I mean, put that in perspective with, your career and going out there. And it's an incredible milestone in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I think, even like looking back at like 100 games, probably didn't think growing up as a kid or getting older it would get this far. So yeah, it's been awesome lately, and it's a huge honor to have it with this organization. I mean, Tampa is, if not the best organization in the whole NHL. So I'm pretty grateful to spend it here.
What about your game? Because, I mean, it's been early on getting a lot of chances, then not as much, and then lately, man, really making the most of that and, playing with Point and Cooch. Not everybody can do it, man, but what have you been focusing on recently the last couple of weeks? Yeah,
I think just probably my confidence and my ability to make plays. I think when that's high and I have a lot of belief in making plays and driving offense of myself and trying to get the puck to those guys in good spots, it helps my game out a lot and ends up going in the back of the net most of the time. So hopefully I can just kind of keep that rolling right now. And playing with those two it's unbelievable. I never would have even thought of it in a million years. So it's pretty special.
What about the challenge of playing a team like Colorado? Obviously, everybody knows how well that they played this year. 3 games lost in regulation. What do you got to do? Is there anything you got to change about your game? You just kind of do what you guys have been doing the last couple of weeks.
I think just kind of do what we're doing the last couple of weeks. I think the whole onus around this team is like we can score goals. We have a lot of guys that are a lot of points per game and stuff like that. But really, it comes down to our team defense, and we've done a good job of that. Whoever's in the lineup, we've been missing some of our big dogs back there for a long time, and a lot of other guys have stepped up their game huge. So hopefully that team defense can kind of be the key thing we're thinking about tonight.
Good stuff there from Gage. And after we spoke there, we had a really interesting conversation about dealing with struggles because, being around baseball, being around football, it's different. Like if you go on a slump in baseball and you're 0 for 18, like you understand it's a 162 game season. Like you have ups and downs. So I think it's a lot easier for guys like that to be able to compartmentalize and then eventually snap out of it. Football, it's like you have a bad game, you pretty much got 6 days before the next one for the most part. So it's different there. Guys can snap and release, right? Hockey, it's different. You might play and then have 3 days off, play the next day. You might be on line 1, you might be on line 4. And for Gage, his big thing is like they brought him in to be a playmaker. They brought him in, and especially going into this year after how last year ended, they expect him to be a top 6 forward. And I said it on the show a couple months ago. And it's ironic how this has happened. The 2 guys that were on the outside looking in were Darren Radish and Gage Goncalves. And look at how well that those guys have played the last couple of weeks. Radish scored a freaking hat trick the other game. And look at Gage playing with Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point. And I asked him, like, how do you stay in it? Like, how do you stay? He goes, you have to make sure that you're confident in your ability and you just continue to work and put yourself in a position where you're going to be successful. And he also articulated how much different it is playing on a third line with Nick Paul, where it's, all right, you're bringing your team into the fight. You're playing a little bit more of a physical game. You're checking more. You're not expected to score. And then playing with guys like Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, where now you have to be a big playmaker. Now you have to make sure that you're shooting the puck and you're finding the back of the net, or they're going to put somebody else in that position. So we had that conversation. What is it like playing with Nikita Kucherov? Do you tend to pass maybe too much? Because we've seen this with the Bolts. They pass too much, especially on the power play. It drives you nuts. What the hell are these guys doing? Shoot the goddamn thing. But for him, he says, I just got to make sure that I find space because Nikita Kucherov is so good. And it was really nice to pick the mind of a player. Like sometimes you can see it. Sometimes you have to ask the players. Anybody that went to Bucs training camp before, during, and after Tom Brady knows exactly what I mean when I say this. Everything was fun when Jameis was there. A lot of good time. Jameis is friends with everybody. Great. When Tom Brady was there, it was no balls hit the ground. Everything was on point. no wasted movement, no stone unturned. Everything was attention to detail. Make sure everybody, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted every single freaking time. Baker, it's a little bit more of kind of how it was with James. It's a lot more fun. There is attention to detail, but I think that carried over from the Brady regime. And guys like Antoine and Tristan and Levante and Mike Evans, they took that. Well, maybe that's some of the stuff that dissipated this year. Finally, some of that Brady aura and mystique, maybe some of that stuff is kind of worn off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a fair question, fair point. But to listen to what Gage Goncalves has said, and I go, what do you got to do? How do you play with a guy like Nikita Kucherov? And he says, I used to watch tape of these guys when I was in Syracuse for 2 years before I ever got called up to be ready for these opportunities. You love to hear that kind of stuff. I asked him, did you watch tape of Andre Palat and what he did when he was here and how successful he was with him or with that group? And he goes, no, I haven't. And I hope he does. That kind of stuff couldn't hurt. But he mentioned how Andre Palat did such a good job of getting the puck out of the corner. And just watch Gage Goncalves when he plays with Nikita Kucherov from Braden Point. He says it's all about spacing. You don't have to go help Nikita Kucherov. You don't have to go over there and help him. A lot of times he gets the puck himself. That's what great teams are able to do. Players know their roles. They know how to play and function with each other. And inherently, that chemistry builds success, and you get goals and you score points. You see this on defense in football sometimes, probably too much, where guys are trying to do too many jobs. You're trying to cover for this guy and cover. Do your job. That's why Gage Goncalves has been successful these last couple of games with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. He's doing his job, going out there, finding space, letting Nikita Kucherov do what he has to do, staying the hell out of the way out of one of the fastest guys in the National Hockey League in Braden Point. I love that. I love that whole thing. So keep an eye on Gage Goncalves tonight. Very excited to see that lineup against the Colorado Avalanche. It's going to be one of the best regular season games of the year between arguably the two best teams in the league in a rematch of the Stanley Cup final that I'm still not over from a couple of years ago. Before we talk about Byrum Brown and USF, I want to mention again Todd Bowles and yesterday. Hold on 1 second. I want to make sure. Oh, Washington Commanders not happy with this guy leaving. No surprise there. There was a big thing that we were speaking about yesterday with Ian, and I wanted to play with you. I wanted to play it for you if you didn't see it yesterday. We were talking about the lack of juice, and we were talking about the lack of energy from the Tampa Bay from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I actually asked Todd Bowles about this yesterday too, but if you missed what Ian and I were speaking about, I want to play it for you right now. What a great song. I was always a big Green Day guy. From the list. All right, here we go. Where were the Buccaneers defensive leaders in the 2025 season? Because I think they left a lot to be desired.
The fact that they brought in JPP was damning for everybody in the organization. Everybody. You're telling me a team with this many leaders and Super Bowl champions doesn't have juice, doesn't have energy? You either have the wrong players, you have the wrong coaches, you have the wrong formula. Something's wrong.
I'll go deeper than that, Jay. I think it's not just the defense. I would say if I said to you, and you can pick anybody on the team, coaching, ball boy, doesn't matter. Who played over and above? Not one person played over and above on the whole Buccaneers squad. That's hard. At least sometimes somebody goes, yeah, like even like a Cody Malk, his rookie year, played 16 games. I would say that's playing over and above. But we didn't even have that. Like, our best players were hurt or missed time or didn't play as well. Or, like, Levante David is still our leader, but it's not enough plays.
He's
okay?
not
It's
the
not
same.
enough
And he knows
plays.
that. He's not the same. He knows that.
No, Vita Vea is a leader. It's not enough plays. Antoine Winter Jr. did not make enough plays this year. Those are our defensive leaders. Like, when you talk about Super Bowl teams and teams competing, when you talk about defensive guys with season under test, we're talking about like Warner for San Francisco. Like, when you put the film on, you are going to say their name. We didn't have a player on defense, especially, that you had to say their name. Nobody. Like, if you would have said defense led by, who are you gonna say?
Nobody.
Nobody.
My guy, Ian Beckles. Not wrong. Not wrong. Who was this team led by? There's still individual greatness that can happen, even if the scheme's wrong, even if your team doesn't win. And it doesn't have to be a world beater. Like, Myles Garrett is great in spite of Cleveland Browns. Same with Joe Thomas when he was there. Like, you see this all the time. The Falcons didn't make it, but you could see the greatness with Bijan Robinson, couldn't you? Like, it shows itself in spite of whatever the schematics are. When you have nobody that pushes that narrative forward, that's alarming, shocking. It's almost like they're doing more harm than good. That's scary as hell, man. Holy smokes. Wow. And I see what you're saying, Benny. Jacob Parrish, and I mentioned during the show yesterday, he's really the only guy that you could look at. You know, Emeka Ibuka early, but he disappeared. That's scary, man. That's bad coaching from everybody. You got to be able to find some kind of diamond in the rough, even if it's just like, wow, we didn't do everything this year, but going forward, it might be better. Like Gage Goncalves. Gage Goncalves was the guy last year that going into this year is like, all right, he's going to get more opportunities, right? Charles-Edouard Dastou, you didn't even know who the hell he was. Neither did I. Now you signed the guy to another contract. He'll be here next year. Like, that's what good organizations do. Even when the Lightning haven't made it out of the first round in the last 3 years, they're still doing that. And the fact that the Bucks aren't and haven't, that to me is one of the biggest things that you have to look at when it comes to whether he's the guy going forward. You can talk about the pass rush. You could talk about the linebacker position. That's fine. You can say all these different things. That's great. But, guys, think about this on all sides of the ball. We haven't had one young guy where it's like, man, he really stood out. He really stood out, maybe with more opportunities next year. You're not saying that about Yaya Diaby. You're not even saying that about Graham Barton. You said it maybe about Emeka Ibuka before he fell off a cliff. And then Jacob Parrish, who still, all right, Jacob Parrish is the only guy. That's not good, man. These players, regardless if you want to blame them or not, are they culpable? No doubt about it. Has Jason Light done a poor job of rectifying and and bringing some of these players in? No doubt about it. But these players, Todd Bowles and the guys that he brings in, have not coached these guys up well enough. I don't think that's an opinion. That's fact. You can't fire the whole team. I can't honestly look at Vita Vea and Yaya Diaby and Antoine Winfield Jr., guys that are trying, and Tyke Smith, and say, like, those guys suck now. Like, I can't say that. Not good enough. Not good enough at all. And I hope things change for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward. But that's what good coaches can do, man. Good coaches can have some bad times, but they put their guys in a position to succeed. They're humble. They get young guys to play over their skis. They get the last squeeze of juice out of veteran players. Not that. Not whatever the hell we just saw in the 2025 season. Hell no. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, lastly, before we get out of here, we saw it earlier today. Byrum Brown has left the University of South Florida, and he has joined Alex Golesh and Auburn. My thoughts. Not surprised. I thought, and I don't know if you can blame him, but Byrum has been thinking about himself and his health and his future ever since he stepped on the campus. But as the years have gone on, nothing's changed. He could have played last year, broken leg. Who knows, man? Who knows why they went about their business the way they did last year of not being completely transparent about the injury. But I know Byrum got a nice NIL package. I know he got a nice Tesla out of the deal. He had to transfer. He had to go to another school because if he doesn't take that next step next year, the money he's going to make next season is going to probably be the most money that he ever makes in his entire life. If he doesn't, I'm saying this, if he doesn't make that NFL money. But you also put yourself in a position where, all right, you're going to play against top tier competition. We know how strong he is. We know that he is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. He's given himself an opportunity. It's put up or shut up time for Byrum Brown. You're going to Auburn. You're going to be playing in the Iron Bowl next year. You're going to be playing against some other top-tier SEC teams on national television. Jordan Harris is going to be crazy. He's going to be screaming War Eagle on the plains with Alex Golesh and Nakai Davenport and all the other USF guys that went there. It's not surprising that these USF players are going with Alex Golesh to the Tigers. It's an exciting offense with a quarterback that you know in a bigger program right now. I'm not going to sit here and cry over spilled milk. I wish Alex Golesh well. He was decent to me when he was here. Grateful for what he was able to do for the Bulls and how he was able to rescue them from the doldrums of how pitiful this team looked under Jeff Scott. But now it's all Brian Hartline, baby. All gas, no brakes. This is a new age for USF. Transition into a new era with Brian Hodgson on the basketball side, with Brian Hartline on the football side, with Rob Higgins and Derek Brooks. Listen, I think it's a smart thing, and I know we saw Moutier Rubin staying, which is good. I think the wideouts are still going to be good here. But it all, as much as people want to talk about what Brian Hartline is going to do for receivers and recruiting, what's the offense going to look like? Because that's what rescued this team. Because they had a very exciting, up-tempo, fast offense under Alex Golesh. They put points on the board, and they were exciting to watch. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because we know this in sports. It's one thing to be a coordinator. It's a completely different ball game when you slide over to that next chair, and now you're the guy calling all the shots. I'm excited. I'm excited for USF, and this was the final page that needed to be turned. Good luck, Byrum. Good luck, Alex Golesh. You're in the past. USF should be focused on the present and the future and seeing if we can get this team back in the conversation of making the college football playoff, getting this team as attractive and as good as they can be heading into a new stadium, and also positioning themselves for conference realignment. Appreciate all that, what the American has done for USF, but they are never going to be a team that is. Let me rephrase that, because I said this a couple of weeks ago. People want to bitch and moan about USF being a stepping stone. You could argue that Ole Miss was a stepping stone. Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss to go to LSU. How many schools out there aren't stepping stones? Just the way it goes. Put yourself in a position where people want to be here for the rest of their careers. We've seen it in other sports, but it has to be undeniable in football and men's basketball. It starts there. And the only way you do that is by getting the hell out of the American. You got to get into the Big 12. You got to get into the Big 10. You got to get into the ACC, the SEC. I think the ACC makes the most sense. Go to the ACC. Hopefully Florida State and Clemson are still there on the football side. Miami's still there. Men's basketball, you're playing Duke and you're playing North Carolina. I think that makes the most sense going forward for USF. Try to get in the ACC, go up against those schools, and then here you go. Hell, you go there, you dominate there, and then maybe go to the SEC one day. Who knows? Maybe the ACC is the perfect conference for USF. I don't know. But what I do know is I trust Rob Higgins. I trust Derek Brooks. Time for change, time to turn that page. It is officially a new chapter. Byrum going to Auburn was that kind of last, little cut. That was it. That was the last thing. I know, CJ. Can we dominate the American first? As I'm saying that, I'm thinking that same thing. I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. For certain people. UCF did well in the American, and don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like they dominated. I don't care what anybody says. They're going to give me any kind of numbers. But it wasn't like they were winning. They didn't win 10 conference championships and then better bust out of there, right? It was timing. Time and place. The right time for conference realignment. If things are firing on all cylinders and this team is still ascending, I don't think there's any question that USF will position themselves to go to an ACC or a Big Ten. And I'll be there for it. And you will be too. What do we got going on the rest of the week? We got Eric Erlinson tomorrow. We got Eddie Encina on Thursday. We got Dr. Carlos Rodriguez on Thursday as well. And I'm going to try to fortify more and more guests. Going to be good. Going to be good. A big thank you to our super chats. How about Syrian Knight? Thank you so much. Todd basing his success on barely winning this sorry-ass division 3 years straight is mind-numbing. He has turned us into the Jets. Not as bad as the Jets. I'm with you, though, because, again, that's why I was hesitant in the beginning. I was hesitant in the beginning about Todd Bowles because I saw firsthand what he did to my family members that are Jets fans. It's like being the skinniest kid at fat camp, right? That's what somebody said to me today. I get it. Somebody said it was like being the best dressed guy in the media. And I said, why do you think I wear these fancy shoes? Anybody want to see my shoes? You ready? You guys ready for this? You see the tie? Let me take this down. Tie. Bam! Yellow, baby, yellow. And the security guard, she says today, those are boring. How the hell am I wearing yellow shoes? What the hell does that mean? Boring? I guess because they don't have spikes or sparkles or rhinestones on them, or they're not glowing. I guess they're pretty boring, right? You set the bar so freaking high, guys and gals. A big thank you to everybody. Chan, Joe Bucks fan. Go check out joebucksfan.com. They're killing it. Chan, my guy Goncalves looking like a lighter-skinned Bruno Mars. Keep it coming, Goncalves. You're playing living the dream. You got that right, buddy. And Syria Knight as well. Thank you so much for the super chat. Did Coop see him yet? I don't know. Sometimes Coop in the morning tries to ignore me, I guess. I don't know. He is what it is. Coop spoke for a while today. Go check out the video. I'm not going to play it because it was so freaking long. But he'll definitely see it tonight. They've seen these before. It's the outfit more today with the dark charcoal suit and the pants. Oh, I got to show my pants too, guys. How do I back up? How can you see my pants? Look at me putting my leg up. Look at the stretch. That's all I got. Black. Oh, see, I can't stretch like that. I'm 40 now, guys. I'm a man. I'm 40. All right, it's going to wrap it up for me. I love you guys. Back in action tomorrow. Make sure you stretch. My guy, Zach Glauber, would always say, stretch. Oh. Man, it's good to be back here at Benchmark International Arena. It's good to be back here with you guys. I'm still fuming over what happened with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Todd Bowles yesterday. All the videos are going to be up on my social media accounts at Recher. Make sure you go check them out. A bunch of videos from yesterday. Just posted another one this morning. And then some of the videos that I'm posting from yesterday's show about blaming Jason Licht, the truth about Baker Mayfield. There's a lot to get into. A big thank you to Greg Auman from Fox Sports. He's the best. We love that dude. And, we'll see what happens the rest of the week. But I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for the love and the support. Honest Hammer, Ever Health, our partners. We got some more partners coming in, but those two guys were the first two. So that always means something very special to me. I love you all. Big game tonight. Lightning and Avalanche. I'm still hating on Colorado because of the Stanley Cup a couple years ago. I'm not over it. I am not over it. Jon Cooper said something today about, oh, thank God they're Team Canada. I'm not rocking with you and Julian either. You can kiss my ass, Jon Cooper and Julian Bruce. It's USA, baby. Stars and stripes, red, white, and blue all day. They talked hella shit after they won the Four Nations. So, yes, if USA wins, I might buy one of those USA suits and wear it here. Only I would do some crazy shit like that. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow at noon back at the home studio right here on the